Real talk, real impact, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is FemmeIcon.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Mahvish Akhtar with another episode of FemmeIcon. Today we will be talking about why hate. We'll go into the history, just a very brief history, and we will discuss a little bit about, just where it started and not in very detail of it, and then why this happens. Just psychology, just a little bit of an emotional aspect, and then we'll talk about what we can do to help ourselves. And if we're talking about how it started and why we feel the way we feel, then we have to talk about the bigger picture, because hate is not an isolated emotion, right? You don't just hate individuals. We do end up hating people, situations, a group of people. When I say people, I mean a group of people, and situations which lead us again to hate a group of people because we have to blame somebody. And then when we blame somebody, we have to then take revenge or fix the situation as we perceive it. So yeah, we'll have to look at that. And then we obviously will tangle the idea of individual hate and where it comes from and what it means to hate someone. Is it a moral thing, an immoral thing, and all of that. So a little bit of history of hate. And we all know where it started. I'm sorry, I'm going to be fidgeting with my scarf today because it's just not sitting the way I want it to. Right. So we all kind of know where it started, right? We all know that it started with the sons of Hazrat Adam, alayhi salam. We know that Habil and Qabil, Cain and Abel, the idea that they weren't happy. One of them was not happy, and I'm just gonna grab this because I don't want to. Can you see? Did I just? There we are. Okay. That I'm gonna read a few verses of the Quran for you, and then I'll let you go ahead and do that research on your own, because again, I don't want to take too much of your time. So we know what happened. We know that how was mankind going to progress, what was going to happen, but how it was designed was in the beginning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had asked sets of twins were being birthed to his Adam and Hawa alayhi salam, and a female from a twin and male from a twin were to be married, and that wasn't acceptable. I don't want to say the wrong name, but to one of the male twins, well, that wasn't acceptable because the female to the other twin was prettier, and he wanted to exchange, and one of the twins was like, "This is connection." All right, we are back. So this or where you'd say conflict started, and what made the conflict happen? So assalamu alaikum and hi to everybody who's joining in. I'm just gonna continue because it takes a lot of time to say hello to every one of you, and you know that I want to get through the information, and I know that it's I should stop and say hello, but so, and that's where the conflict happens, is when you start to think about yourself rather than the bigger picture, because Adam al-Islam knew why he was on earth. He knew what the plan was, and I'm sure his children also knew what the plan was. They were trying to populate the earth. It wasn't, at that time at least, for their pleasure and for, I don't think she's pretty and I don't think that. And that's really not a good enough reason to just be, You're like, I don't marry her because she's pretty. They had a huge purpose on their hands, right? They had just a really big thing that they had to do. So that is where the first problem began. So in this in Surah Maida, it starts at around ayah 27, but it would help to just go ahead and read a few ayahs before and a few ayahs after. It explains very nicely that whole situation and what was really happening at that time. It says, and recite to them the stories, offered a sacrifice. Because after that, when that whole fight was over, they were asked to give sacrifice. And the son who was already causing trouble, his sacrifice was not. When both of them offered a sacrifice, it was accepted from the other. He said, I will kill you. He said, Allah accepts only from God-fearing. So one of their sacrifices was accepted, other ones wasn't. And then the one whose sacrifice was not accepted killed the other brother. So you see, hate and anger and envy, all of these things eventually led to this situation where one brother ended up killing the other brother. And this is not an unusual story for us, but this is how this idea of hate and idea of anger, it started. And so yeah, you can say since the dawn of time, right? That's how what people say. So now we know that what we actually assume, or we would assume, or we would like to, that these would be the best of people, would they not? But this is, so we can say safely that this is a normal human emotion. Negative, positive, we'll discuss that later. But this is where hate actually started. This is where it started to get a hold of humanity. This is where it started to become a part of everyday life. So this was the example of how we became the people that we are. And it also is an example of the other side of the token, where you're forgiving and you're loving and you say, you're my brother. I know you hate me enough to want to kill me, but I am not going to fight you. I'm not going to raise up arms against you, or even try to, complain that you're doing this to me, because I know better. Because I know what I have to do and why I have to do it, and I'm not going to try and hurt you in return. So we see both sides from the very first day. Mankind started to grow. And then the earliest recorded historical event that we would be able to call genocide was at the end almost of Roman Empire. And these are the only two examples I want to give you, and then we'll move on, because it just kind of shows us how these little things get us where we are, and what makes them, and how they become relevant in our everyday life, and even what is happening today and what we call genocide and what we call hate, individual hate towards one person because of our personal reasons, and hatred towards a group of people. This was a particular civilization that was nearby. Let me see what. So it was the civilization was called Ancient Carthage. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. So they were a big enemy for the Roman Empire. They were actually a very big, not big, because at that time empires were tiny, but there were cities or towns, but they're a very big enemy. You can say they're a very strong empire. It's said, from what I've read, that they were their queen was empress was a woman, and she had somehow escaped her brother or some sort. Where was this? This was around. She escaped the city of the country of Jordan, some part of Jordan, and she started her own city, her own civilization. And around 1814 BC, and she was going very strong with her little civilization. It was a very, very formidable civilization, and they had threatened the Roman Empire many, many times. So one of the advisors, a very wise person, member of the Senate of the Roman Empire, had a lot of things to say about this civilization, because one of their warriors had really humiliated him personally. This was Marcus Cato. His name was Marcus Cato. And he had just over and over again said, we have to just get rid of this civilization. So while his problem with them was as a whole was about the civilization, while he was talking about, yes, this is a problem for us. Yeah, they do, send their warriors, and they do, fight us, and they do defeat us. And sometimes, the Romans defeated them too. But what happened was that they kept gaining, the Roman Empire kept spreading, kept gaining power in different, getting a hold in different places. But usually they would destroy other whatever coming up civilizations. But this civilization, even though it was in a small, tiny area, not a huge area, they weren't able to completely crush it. So while what he was saying meant something, and the Senate agreed with him, but his was a bit of a personal, it had a personal meaning to him, because he had been humiliated over and over again by Hannibal, which was one of their warriors, and one of a very, again, formidable, known warriors, and people were kind of afraid of him by the end of the Carthage's reign. So, and there were a lot of battles. Finally, what ended up happening was they did make through making deals with manipulating other, governments around them and other civilizations around them. They somehow made a deal with this civilization, and they ended up stopping attacking Rome. Carthage stopped attacking them, and they were quiet. There were no more fights. However, still, Rome chose to burn the entire city down to the ground, killing everybody in it, and whoever was at door was taken and was enslaved. And it's actually quite popular. There's a quite popular phrase if you're into history and you read Cato's this part of the history towards the end of the Roman Empire is quite popular phrase. Whenever he gave a speech in the Roman Senate, and whenever there was any kind of discussion about anything, in the end, whether it's related to that civilization or not, at the end of every speech, he would say, furthermore, I consider that Carthage must be destroyed. That was just something he was stuck on. And if you look at it from his point of view, why was he stuck on it? Everybody agreed with him. It was going to happen. Of course, you have to put a lot of thought and a lot of consideration into just marching on to another, very strong government who you've had battles with, and they have defeated you many times. But he just kept saying it over and over again, because he had something personal going on. He had been humiliated. He had been made to feel bad about himself, and so yeah, he had something personal to prove there. He had something else going on that made him feel like he has to move forward, and he has to do something about it, and he has to do something about it soon. Because when you have been publicly made to feel a certain way, you have to negate it right away, and you have to do it publicly. It can't be like, it's fine, I'll just write them a note, right? That you were wrong. You have to prove it to everybody else too. So that's where his hate and his anger was coming from. And that's the thing about hate, that it's an emotion. It's not in a rational process. Because in other scenarios, you would open a dialogue. Like even in this scenario, it happened, right? They somehow managed it, whether it was through violence or through talks or whatever they managed, where both parties had come to an agreement where they were not attacking each other anymore. So that should have been enough. But it wasn't enough. For whatever reason, it wasn't enough. So hate is an emotional reaction. It's an emotional reaction to whatever you're feeling. And every emotional reaction has some kind of reason, has some kind of something hidden behind it. Right? So if you say, if you're crying, if you look at a child, even adults, if you're crying, you might be in pain, whether it's physical or emotional. If you're laughing, you might be happy about something. It might be something that somebody's given you something, it's a gift, or you're actually emotionally happy. So this also, hatred is also a response. And mostly it's response for anger or pain. So we have to keep this, and this is where it actually, we don't see it that way, where we think we just hate somebody because we hate them, because they're a terrible human being, because they do terrible things, and we hate them. But no, that response, even if it's not somebody we're closely related to, first of all, yeah, most of the time, I know you guys know it too, that when you are with somebody and you are, and you've known them long enough, and then you come to gradually that conclusion that, yeah, I don't like that person. Actually, I hate that person. It's probably going to be because they've done something to deserve that hate, right? So you can underline that little phrase in your head, that they've done something to deserve that hate. Or if it's on a larger level, it's somebody famous or some, political leader or whoever else it may be, or a group of people. They've also done something to deserve that hate in a person's mind. Whether that something deserves the hate or not is a different issue. Whether what they've done is only hate-worthy in your mind, or can be justified, or whatever else is, again, a separate issue. But we are feeling it because either we've been hurt by it, or we know somebody who's been hurt by it, or we have been somehow been affected by it negatively, where we feel that hate. So there's always another emotion underneath the hate. Hate is not the main emotion. The main emotion is always underneath the hate. And same goes for anger. So anger and hate are very, very similar. And I'm sure I've said that over here many, many times, that whenever my kids are, super angry and just throwing a tantrum out of anger, I always tell them to find that emotion beneath the anger. Because that's going to be the key for them to understanding what they're angry about, and then controlling their anger. And I tell them, you can say things like, I'm frustrated today because this happened. Or when they're angry, they say, okay, can you, in your mind, you don't have to tell me or talk to me about it, because anger also, and hate as well, also is all about the ego. That you can't admit that I might be a part of this. It might be about me too, right? So it's like, just think about what happened today. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Maybe sleepy? Did something happen at school? Did your friend say something to you? Or your teacher say something? Or, did you not find something you were looking for? And then, 10 minutes later, something else happened and you just blew up at that particular person or the situation because something that happened 10 minutes earlier you were frustrated about? Just think in your head, and maybe we can resolve the issue, the actual issue, and you'll feel better. And more often than not every time, it doesn't work every time, but a lot of the times I'll see them calm down and either try to resolve their issue or come to me and just be like, I had a frustrating day because of this, or I'm really annoyed at so-and-so, or it'll be about me and just be like, and they'll just say, you're it's really annoying when you do this, or when you told me to do this even though I wanted to, whatever it may be. And I see them just kind of, calming down using the techniques I've taught them to, calm themselves down. So, these are just basically reactions to the emotions that we're feeling. Sometimes it's just sadness. Sometimes somebody says something or done something that we're just like, I can't believe you said that to me. How could you? Wow. And it comes out in just the angry, and just because you can't shake the other person and make them feel the way you're feeling or make them understand. And they might just be like, but I don't understand. What, you're angry about this? Really? Or you're sad about this? Because it's coming out in anger, right? And you may not even say that you're sad about it. You may just say, I can't believe you said that to me. Oh my God, I'm so upset. And you're like, upset. Maybe if you said, I'm sad about it. And sometimes even that doesn't work. But that would probably be a better approach. But yeah, then that makes you angry. And then you get angrier and angrier. So these were just some examples. So there are a lot of different theories about, psychologically, about why anger and hate are so infamous, and whether they're happy. By happy, I mean whether they're negative or positive emotions, or should we just let them come out as they come out? And the important thing to note in this is that hate is a very unique emotion, because hate has a goal, right? Anger may not, because anger is just a product of hate. When you're hating something or somebody, your reaction to them and the things they do will be anger. But hate in itself is just there. And that as a feeling, hate as a feeling, is unique in the sense that it has a goal. If you're happy because someone did something for you or something good happened in your life, you're just happy because that particular thing happened. If you're sad, you're just sad. If something bad happened, you're angry about it, you're just angry about it, right? But if you hate somebody, whether it's collectively a group of people, whether it's an individual, whether it's, whatever else it may be, it has a goal. So that makes it unique. And that just in itself becomes a huge, just a completely different kind of entity, because then it gives it power. So then hate becomes more powerful, because then it can affect people's lives. Then that's why hate becomes destructive, because then you are capable of hurting yourself, you're capable of hurting others, and you're capable of passing on that message and recruiting people even, and causing more of just the environment can get worse. You can cause bigger trouble, and you can cause more of this, the situation, like we say, spread hate, but and more of if you look at it from a psychological point of view, you're not spreading anything because it's not a disease, obviously. So what you're doing is that you're just kind of, this idea has taken root, that this is the thing that I'm choosing to hate, right? And then you're telling other people, hey, I'm deciding to hate this thing, right? Do you want to join in? And then people will ask you the reasons, and they will think about it. The thought is theirs, whether they want to do this or not. And you can't make them hate something unless they're feeling the same way. So how do you make them feel the exact same way you're feeling if they're not in your situation? How do you make them feel that way? How do you put them through the same feelings, the same pain, the same fears as you, if they don't have the same experiences as you? Because they have to have all of those things to hate, right? Because we talked about it. Why do you hate people? You hate them because you're in pain. They've hurt you in some way. You hate people because they've humiliated you, because they've created some kind of situation where you were fearful of them. Because the examples we talked about was, you're envious of them, that the Senate member, the elder Marco, or one of the other son's sons, they were envious, they were fearful, they felt pain from the experiences they had, and that's what made them hate. So how do you tell somebody else, hate, these are my experiences, you should hate the exact same person, or people like those people on the same experiences that I've had, whether you've had those experiences or not? So how do you convince them? So the biggest tool you'll use to convince them is fear. You will create scenarios where you will amplify those experiences and create fear. Right? You may not be able to give them that pain, because pain has to be felt deep inside. You may not be able to humiliate them in that way, because you can't humiliate somebody. You can't put them in a situation where that person defeats them personally, or that person takes something that belongs to them. Well, that's being done, but people think that's being done, but it's not really being done. But you can't put them in that situation where they take something that actually belongs to them and it's being taken away. But the biggest thing that you can do is create fear in their mind that these things are happening to them. So if somebody becomes fearful and you make them anxious and you keep putting doubt, it can grow. That doubt can grow and grow and grow. And then the hate from all of that pain and all of that fear. Because if you have fear of these things in your head, if you're full of, oh, this person can cause me pain, this person can take away my family, this person or these people can hurt me physically, or these people can take away this thing from me and that thing from me, and this person experienced it. And that original person who was talking about these things, who's actually hating them, who came back and told you all these experiences, may have actually experienced them. So you have a person who is, you can say patient zero, or, whatever you want to call them, who's actually experienced those things. And they come back and tell you, and then they give you a list of these things and makes you fearful of them, and your anxiety and your fear of it takes over. And you feel as though all these things are actually maybe happening to you or may happen to you. And that fear puts you in the category of hate. And now, of hating those same people, and now you have a common goal against those people. So that is how hate has extreme destructive powers. Now, how do you And obviously, you're only going to go ahead and hate those people who you think have malicious intent. You're going to only believe this person hates those people because they were doing or wanting to do something bad to you or your kind. And that's why you hate them. So to tackle that, it's all self-explanatory that when one person is on that path to hating, the anger just kind of joins in. When you hate somebody, you are angry towards them for taking whatever they're taking from you, for hurting you, whatever way that they think they're hurting you, and so on. So the best way to help those people would not be to in return hate them as well, because they are very much into themselves. They're very much thinking that we are on the right because we've been hurt, we've been taken advantage of, right? So if you tell them you're wrong and you just treat them the same way they're treating you, it's not going to be fruitful at all. So if you want to help them, you have to come from a different angle of, all right, we apologize. Because the biggest thing about hate and anger, both of these, because the reason they're used side by side is because they're very egotistical emotions, if you want to call them that. You have to use your ego. You have to really be very, very, they're competitive, and you have to really use your ego. You have to use your sense of I a lot. That what I need to get what I deserve. I need to be satisfied. I. So if you're also using your I in front of those people who are talking about being hurt and humiliated, then I'm sorry, my chair kind of slipped. Then that's really not going to be so fruitful with those people. So you need to just kind of come around and not touch that. Because if you say, well, you're wrong and that's not how it is, and that's really not going to be very fruitful. You have to come from the angle of, all right, you may be right. This may have happened. And let's open it up. Let's listen to what you have to say. And then you have to keep doing that. They're not going to be open to it, but you have to keep doing it constantly. And of course, there comes a point where there's no talking to people like that. But we do have to keep trying. We do have to keep trying on whatever level that we can. Whether it's, a group of people or on an individual level. Because if you come straight at them, then it's not always that them being, oh, look, I told you, these people were not worth that. A lot of time, it's the fear that's been, drilled in them that comes out. And they get just, their shields and their walls go up. So we have to keep, that in mind, that there is another side to it. And when the walls go up, then there's no approaching the other person. So we do need to make sure that we try and keep the walls down. And then when we're talking about a group of people and countries and nations and, ethnic groups and races, things are a little bit more complicated. I understand that. But again, approaching people, starting a dialogue not with, oh, you're wrong, we're right, now let's talk about it. It's more of, all right, let's sit and talk. What are your complaints? One by one. Let's start the dialogue. That's where you would actually start. So now we'll just delve into on a more individual level, because that's more our area, and we can do better with that. We did talk about the history, and that kind of explained to you how hate and anger has always existed. Hate, anger comes from basically envy and pain, and those some positive emotions. Pain, hurt, being humiliated, feeling all the complexes that we hold, and then envy and anger, and that brings up a hate to all the way up wherever. And there are also some other factors that on a personal level, I know all of you would be able to relate to, and we all can. We all can relate to them. It's sometimes to feel a void. Hate just kind of fills a void that we have inside of us that we can't explain why it's there, right? I mean, there's always a reason for why we feel empty, why we feel like there's something missing in our lives. And there's always a reason for, again, we've talked about fear plenty of times, and we talked about how there's a fear of people being different. People, oh, they might hurt us, they might cause us pain, they might take something that belongs to us, just because we don't know other people, we don't understand them. So rather than just sitting down and saying, hey, let's talk about it, or so why are you here? What's your motive? We just start to do the other thing, which means otherness, just kind of assuming that they're the other, right? That's scary too. The uncertainty of any situation can cause us to become hateful of a person, of a situation. It's not just always a person, it can be a situation that can make us hateful. And just overall society, just overall the way we've been raised. We've been raised to be hateful, angry people, violent people. And I'm not even talking as larger society, like as a people, where it's like, okay, wage war at everyone, which is true. That's also true. That part of it is also true. But I just mean as in individually, we're extremely competitive as a human race. We are constantly telling our kids to do better, whether it's school or college or sports, and asking them how their friends did, and, oh, you need to do this better, and you need to be better at this, and you need to be better than your friends, and you need to constantly getting upset when they lack at anything. That's all, I feel like, almost, in a violent way, putting pressure on people to, and I know a lot of you will disagree, and you'll say, well, that's normal. People have to do better, and they have to compete, and they have to get, that's how you push people. And that's absolutely true. But we do it to the extent where you start to resent and eventually hate the people who are doing better than you. So there should be a sense of competition. And then there should be a sense of, at some point within that competition, look, you'll compete because you should be better, and you should constantly try to be better. But then you should also be happy for your friends when they do better than you. So that should be simultaneous. And I know that the way I'm saying it right now sounds like a very confusing message, and that is exactly how kids receive it. And they get extremely confused. So we need to find a way to make it a healthier competition for the children. And we don't do that. So we just learn that behavior in terms of, I'm going to compete against everyone. And whoever wins, anytime, I'm going to hate that person. Because now I have this inferiority complex of that I'm not good enough. I'm in pain because of it. I feel humiliated because of it. And I feel like it was some kind of conspiracy theory. I wasn't called first, and I didn't have enough time, and this and that. And now I hate everybody because of it. So as a culture, we've created this atmosphere of dislike anybody who doesn't let you get what you want. And because of that, we've just, decided to be angry at everybody and in turn hate everyone. So these are the cultural factors that get us to be just resentful people. But we're talking about pure hate. And hate is you're not always hating people that are, that don't deserve it. I was just talking about a few factors, but you don't always hate people that don't deserve it. There are many, many, many times we do hate people that actually deserve it, who've done things to us. Now, I don't know about deserving it, because I don't know how healthy it is for us or for the people that we're projecting it towards to actually be in that hateful condition with our mind and our body. But sometimes people have actually hurt us that much, where it's natural for those feelings to come out, and those emotions, that anger that turns into hate, that feeling of, again, fear and pain and sadness and betrayal, and all of that is directed towards one person, 2, 3 people, a group of people, whatever you want to say. Sometimes it's accurate. Sometimes it's okay to feel that way towards a person, but then acting on it, right? That's where the real issue comes in. That's where the real problem comes in. And then also, there's 2 parts to it, right? There's one, actually feeling the emotion all the time. You're just feeling it, you're in it, or you're in it when you see them, and acting on it. Again, we said that hate is a complicated emotion because it has a goal that you want to act on it. You want to do something about it. You can't just be hating when somebody just be like, this person, and then that's it. No, you want to do something. It motivates you to do something. Usually not something positive. So yeah, how do you deal with that? And then the question, that's why, hate actually is, there is a theory about hate. So that's what these some there are some questions. Again, hate, is it always a negative emotion? Is it always an immoral emotion? Like, is it immoral to be hateful? That's the question. Does it derive from negative emotions every time? Can it derive from positive emotions, like love of a positive thing or a good thing? Or basically, that's the only example I'm thinking of. Can hate be justified? Why forgive? That's a very, very important thought process. So, important discussion. Now, I wanted to just hit on the fact that, again, like you said before, okay, there are many theories about hate. And one of the theories, again, is a duplex hate theory, that hate is duplex, that it can go either way. And it can be considered that, yeah, if you're hating for the positive reasons, it's okay. But if you're hating for the negative reasons, it's going to be, it's going to turn out ugly. But bottom line is hate. You can't spin it in a positive way. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not trying to preach to you even a little bit. See, this time comes around on 45 minutes and just start pretty much done. So here's a few things about why forgive, right? Because, so we talked about all of these things, about why we hate and where hate comes from. It's negative and positive. Sometimes we're hating people for the right reasons. Sometimes we're hating them because they've done terrible things. And sometimes we're hating them because we don't know them, because we don't understand and we assume that they're bad people. And sometimes we hate people just because we're grown up, taught to hate people. And there could be a lot of different reasons for hate. But bottom line of why we should not hate and why we should forgive. So forgiveness and hate and not hating, again, are two different things, right? Not hating is just saying, oh, stop hating people, right? Oh, that person has hurt you and they've done terrible things to you. Just forget about it. That's one thing, right? Another thing is to say, just forgive them from the bottom of your heart. That's a different emotion. That's a completely different thing that you're saying to somebody, right? So maybe you can't stop feeling the way you feel about them. Like, you can't stop hating them because of what they did to you, which really doesn't mean that you stop hating them or you stop feeling those terrible feelings, because you know what you felt in that moment when those things were happening, whether it was a moment or days or weeks or years, whatever. That's understandable, right? Maybe you need to work with somebody to gradually get over those feelings. However, maybe you need to stop yourself from living backward and work on healing yourself from whatever, like I said, with someone, some professional in that way. Now, what is forgiveness? That's the point that we need to understand. Because hate is kind of a mask, if you think about it. Hate is kind of a mask to not deal with everything around those incidents that we faced. Hate is kind of a way of saying, look, that happened, whatever that was, that chunk of your life with those people in it. Now we're talking about individual hate, right? Hate with one person, two people, one-on-one kind of hate. That something happened with those individuals, and now I have this extreme pain because of it. Right, so that is what we're, Majda Kokar, so that's what we're talking about. So, I have these events that makes me feel a certain way towards these people. And I am triggered by certain things. So you put on this mask of, yeah, I hate them and I hate this. And that's a mask that you're covering all your other emotions. Because to say anything else, like we talked about before, there are feelings underneath hate. So if you start to talk about those feelings, then that would be painful. Hate is easier. It's easier to say, yeah, I hate that person. It's easier to say, that person did this to me and that hurts. It's harder, I'm sorry, did I say easier? I meant harder. It's harder to think and accept that this person did this particular thing to me and it makes me sad. Or that person was my friend and then this happened and now we don't talk and I miss them. Right? So all of that is much harder. And then you have to keep going. And then you'll have to accept responsibility for a lot of those things, because most of the time it's not one-sided. It is a possibility that they've done more things to ruin that relationship, or to whatever, to do what it took for you to feel the way you feel about them. But then you will have to take your part, responsibility for your part, and whatever happened between the two, you or 4 or 5 of you, or whatever the situation is, right? So, even if you have to move on from that, not, connect with them again, whatever way you want to put your relationship back together, or put yourself back together away from that relationship, you will still have to take responsibility for your own part in it. And that's hard. That's absolutely, that in itself, sometimes you feel like just doing that in itself feels like you're going to destroy yourself almost. So that is something that you need to, we need to work on. And that is why we wear that mask where it's like, yeah, I can't forgive. Because the first thing we need to do, what we need to understand, is we need to forgive ourselves. That it's okay to be in pain about this. Again, remember what we talked about is that there's this thing that comes in where it's like, it's all about us. When it comes to hate, it becomes, I'm this and I'm that and I can handle it and it's just all about me. So when we make it about us, then we can't open our eyes and look at the bigger picture and think, yeah, I'm going to have to start thinking about where I went wrong in this whole thing. How could I have handled this situation better? Maybe if I hadn't reacted this way, it would not have come to this. Maybe if I had done this differently, it would have been this way for me today. Maybe if I had done this, not to make yourself feel bad, or not to be, I'm going to go apologize to those people. No. Just to make it easier on you to move on from this situation. And to say, those people are not that important. If they would do this to me, then why am I giving them this much control of my life? Because the more you keep thinking about them, the more you keep obsessing, because hating somebody is obsessing over them, right? They're in your mind, you're in your head. Whenever you see them, you're like, oh, I can't stand to be around them, this and that. You're giving them power. They have so much control over you, over your emotions, over how you feel, how you think, how much anxiety you have. So you first forgive yourself for whatever you feel you did wrong, or whatever you feel you have, your part was in all of this. Because there is a part of you that understands that. It just doesn't want to come out and admit it, because it is going to be painful. And then you move forward to proceed to say, I'm letting go of you. That's what forgiveness is. You don't even have to go to their face and say, I forgive you. At some point in the future, you might get there, and that's great. You just have to know in your heart, they are not that important. And you gradually get to that point where they don't trigger you. They don't upset you. You don't feel anything for them. That is how you free yourself of those people that you thought that you hated. Because it's not the people that you hated, it was the circumstances, it's the way it happened, it's the way everything came around, and it was what you were feeling because you thought that you wanted control, and you're, the part of yourself that put you right in the middle and made you yourself the most important part, which you are. You are the most important part of it. But it wasn't but it was the anger, it was the hate that was making you see it differently. Because if you're more important, and you would be more receptive to other people, other people's opinions, other people's feelings, and healing, right? When you're in a group setting and there's been hurt feelings and betrayals and all of those things, then you cannot succeed and you cannot move on from that situation unless you've heard everybody's side and decided, okay, this was my part in this. I'm going to move on from this. And then I'm going to let everyone walk away from whatever they have done or not done or believe. Until you do that, you don't get control back of yourself. And that hatred does not dissipate. So you have to let go of the pain. You have to let go of the sadness. Of course, it's a process. It's not an overnight thing. And you have to let go of the of all the burdens. And of course, you have to work with somebody in doing so. And you have to be committed to do that. And within that process, you'll find that when you let go of those people who have hurt you and you decide they're not important enough, that's where the forgiveness is for them. And that mask of hatred underneath which is all the pain and the sadness and the betrayal and all of that is stuck, it's just going to come off. And life will become much easier for you. Here are a few things that can help you. Know that these are normal emotions, hate and anger. Don't think of them as, oh, something's wrong with me, or try to hold on to them because, yeah, that makes me stronger. Either thought process is going to be extremely destructive for you. Own your emotions. Whatever emotions there are, good or bad, own them. Actually, there are no bad emotions. Emotions are emotions. Just own them and accept them and then work on them. If it's sadness, then yeah, have somebody help you through that. If it's betrayal, then have somebody work. Accept them. Don't just say, no, I'm just angry at them because they hurt me, and not accepting how they hurt you, what happened, and not let someone help you deal with it. Keep looking forward. Don't dwell on these things too much. Only go into the details to help yourself, to heal from it, not to just, that's how hatred and anger just keeps growing, is because you sit there, or we all do that, and just, cook things up in our head, like, oh, that happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. Oh, and that person also did this, and they also did this. Don't do that. Only talk about how to move forward, what steps to take to, get to the next step and move on. Again, understand the source. And where is this anger and pain coming from? Where is this hatred coming from? What happened? A lot of people don't even know exactly what happened. We know what we think or what we want to believe happened, but not exactly what happened, because it's not always as simple as what we see on the surface. There's so many layers to it. So understand the layers. Make a list of your triggers, if there are any. If there's something as particular that's happened, if there's things that make you more angry, if there's things or people being around certain people aggravates you more or brings out certain, ways of thinking or patterns, try to avoid them, until you've resolved your issues. Try to avoid those. Find anchors in the present. So our hatred comes out even of people right now in our life, or situations, or just generally of anything that, because I can't really go in detail of what kind of hatred other people have, whether it's of people or things or groups or whatever. Our hatred comes out when we go in the past, because right now that person that you extremely hate is not doing anything to you in the present, hopefully. Because if they are, then that's a completely different ballgame, right? But if they've done something in the past, Then, of course, if it's something like a domestic violence case or a case of any kind of abuse, domestic violence or any kind of abuse, that's completely different. That needs to be reported and contact us right away, and we'll try to get you help in any possible way. So that's not what we're discussing here. Same goes for the past. If somebody has abused you in the past in any way, again, contact right away. Us or anybody else, even the government hotline. So that's a completely different topic here. But what we're talking about is any other kind of issue, any other kind of hate, or any other kind of pain that you've been living in. If it happened in the past, if it's happening in the present, then you're going to have to deal with it in a way where you try to get yourself out of it, right? And then find an anchor, something that changes your mood, something that gets you away from it. Someone, like either you have a therapist or you have a friend or anyone who you can talk to get out of that situation. If you have a friend, you don't have to tell them what's happening. If you think that they might not understand, just talk to them, go out, read, watch something on TV, so you are not focused on that thing. That makes you filled with anger and hatred and with negative emotions. So you don't dwell on them and you don't, act on them as you go along. Same with something in the past. If those thoughts keep coming to you, push them away. Find ways to, again, find something in the present. When they're saying find anchors in the present, that means if your thoughts are wavering to the past constantly and then you're getting angry at those people who did those things to you in the past and are still here today. Again, I'm not talking about any kind of sexual, emotional, or physical abuse. Obviously, I wouldn't count emotional abuse because, it's a lot of times it's just, I'm and stuff like that. That becomes problematic for us. That counts in this conversation, but physical abuse, sexual abuse, that is not part of this conversation. So if we have any other kind of things that happened to you in the past, today what you can do is find things today that you can hold on to that would bring you back to the present. Like you had a childhood where your parents were really, really tough on you. And now when you see them, you're just like, oh my God, I'm so angry at you. I can't. Don't go back there. If you want to keep a relationship with them, leave all of that out of your mind. Bring your back time, bring yourself to here. If you have a good relationship, focus on that. Don't let your mind go back there. Do things that you do with them right now. Build new memories and try not to go back there. Like, जो नई memories हैं, उन पे concentrate करें. Find things to do if you're at home or if you have to see them. Find new things to do with them if they're open to that, or so that you don't have to think about whatever happened in the past. Right? So इस तरह की चीजें. Or if you're sitting alone and you start thinking about somebody else or some other incident that makes you upset or angry, don't think about it. Again, find activities, find things, start reading, start doing something else, go out if you have like a backyard, and start gardening if you like doing that. I don't know. Start watching TV. Find things that can ground you into the present, away from that thought process. And I'll say it again. Physical abuse, sexual abuse does not count. The only kind of abuses that I'm counting in this is our parents were the way they were, right? Or koi friends hain jinse aapki ab dosti nahi rahi hai. And many other scenarios that do not involve anything physical of any sort. And even some kind of emotional abuses wouldn't be a part of this. But, and that we would have to, of course, contact somebody, and then we would have to separate. But yeah, a lot of family situations are like that, where now you see those people and you're just like, I can't, and then there's a lot of other work situations, and then we say we hate this person, and we have to, first of all, define hate, because we've talked about it a few times, and find the root cause. We've talked about it again and again. Okay, root cause kya hai? Define hate, In root causes, again, there are things like being frustrated with something, being fearful, our past experiences, and what was it? Yeah, injustices. Like if people have been unjust to you, people have been cruel to you, you've faced a lot of adversities. All of these things can bring you to hate a person or a people. But then again, you have to be sure that you are not becoming a cause of hate or a cause of a bigger problem by hating somebody for these reasons. So it's a real rabbit hole, and I could keep talking about it. I have to keep talking in circles. But yeah, there are a few other things that I wanted to say were that our website is back up, and I hope this was informative enough and I didn't take too much of your time, but our website is back up, femmerang.com, but we had to, because we had some complications, we had to change the spelling use a little bit. It's FemmeRung. There used to be an A, now there's a U. femmerang.com. So go and visit. We have we'll be putting some new stuff on there pretty soon, and our YouTube channel is almost ready. We'll update you as soon as it's, we have stuff on there. And these topics, today's topic, last time's topic, please DM us, let us know what kind of help we can provide you about marriage and nikah and what to do right before you start. We've given you a lot of information on it, and we would be more than happy to help you through it, to guide you if you need guidance in any way possible. And today we talked about hate, and we talked about anger, and we talked about what kind of anger and hate that you can just take help with a therapist, and what kind of anger and hate that you need to actually go beyond that, So yeah. So we need to work on those things, and you need to please DM us if you need help, any kind of help. And we have our psychologists. We will be updating actually a list of our psychologists with their recent accomplishments, because they just keep doing more things. So we gotta keep adding more things. So we'll be doing that soon. You can go check out that page, and for right now, you can go check out actually just get their information, and then DM us if you need any help from us. And somebody asked, can age differences matter in marriage? Well, we did just recently have a discussion on marriage, and you can DM us. We can talk more about it, because our time, we've again going way over time. And this is a very lengthy conversation about age difference in marriage, and it's just so yeah. Let's have another discussion on it, and it's a fun one. It's a fun conversation. So let's have that. But everything can make a difference in marriage, and then not make a difference, and it just depends on how you perceive it and how you go forward with it, right? So all of it is important. But thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for always showing up and your love. And we will continue to do what we're doing. And please keep showing up. I hope this was informative, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, and love.